How do you see life? We all have ways of looking at life. They're like lenses. Lenses, like these things that we take on and put onto our faces so many times a day that we lose track. We go into autopilot. Where are my glasses? We have lenses that help us see clearly. Sometimes they help us see things that are far away. Sometimes they help us see things that are close up. We have lenses that keep the sunshine at a distance. And yes, there are even literally rose-colored glasses. We have lenses that do all kinds of things to help us see more clearly. But are they ever 100%? So we also have lenses through which we see life. They're not purchased at Warby Parker or at the eye doctor. Rather, the lenses through which we approach life have very often been shaped for us by our families, by our social context, even by our churches. Through what lenses do you look at life? Well, here are a few examples of some common lenses that we might see out in the world today. Some see life as a gift. Life is a gift. Every day is a new day that's like a great big present. It's about grace and appreciation. All things are blessings. Nothing is taken for granted. Some see life as something to be conquered, right? Claimed, protected. People everywhere are out to get us. So we have to protect what is ours. Some see life as a marketplace. We try to get as much as we can. More, climb higher. Dig deeper, accrue wealth, no matter the impact. Some see life as a journey. There are mountains, there are valleys, there are paths that step by step lead to wisdom and truth. Trust the process. Some see life as a web of connectedness. We are different parts, but one body, dependent on each other. My recycling here affects somebody else over there. And some see life as a responsibility to care for the underdog. Give voice to the voiceless. Lift up those who don't have a place at the table. You get the point. Whether we want to admit it or not, we each have our own unique ways that shape how we live life, how we treat our neighbor, how we spend our money, how we live on this planet, and how even we think about God. How do you see life? It's a good question, especially here on the first Sunday of Advent, the first Sunday of the church year. So I have to ask, what if we looked at life through the lenses of Advent? What might we see? If we looked at life through the lenses of Advent, how might we do things differently? In his book titled Rest, Alex Soo-Young Kim Pang discusses the evolution of the sciences. He tells the story of a neuroscientist in 1897, saying that science had become politicized and industrialized. Scientists could, get this, do things like read journals and newspapers. They could go to conferences. And this led to many more scientific advances, which naturally led to higher expectation and, you guessed it, competition. One had to hurry to stay ahead of the competition. Research had become frantic, which meant that fast, superficial science, and lots of it, had won over slower, deeper, and more profound work. Does this sound familiar to you? Does the lens of productivity often win out? What would it look like to be able to identify and focus on slower, deeper, and more profound work? Well, this is what Advent is all about. That's what this is all about, changing the dial on the way we live life. Like a scientist that has the time to ponderously explore the frills and frilliness that float within a tiny drop of water, Advent is here to help us slow down, focus, be awake, and watch. Well, I know what you're thinking. If Advent is about slowing down, then what in the world was up with that gospel? Which seemed to do anything but cultivate a space of slowing down. Well, let's take a closer look. The message from our gospel today definitely wakes us up, and that is exactly what it was intended to do to us today and to those first hearers of the Gospel of Matthew. It captures one of the themes of Advent, and you know the word Advent comes from a word meaning coming. A theme of Advent is that of looking ahead to the time when the Messiah will come again, ending human history and bringing all things to completion. But the message within the message that Jesus is trying to tell his disciples is, we don't know when these things will happen. We have no idea when this will take place. All of those things, the signs of the end, okay, they're coming, but we don't know when. Which means that you and I live in an I don't know kind of place. It means that, sure, we keep an eye on that distant horizon, but more importantly and most importantly, we keep an eye on the way that we are living life right now. So every Advent, we're invited to examine our lenses to see if they are the right fit for us. We're invited to look at life just a little bit differently, not through a powerful ruler, but through a little child. Not through a fancy throne, but through a manger. Not through a man who climbed over the top of people to get to the top of the ladder, but a person who lived among the people and invited powers that be to see the world in a different way. Is this an Advent? Is this an Advent during which you might be called to try on a different set of lenses? You know, just because we grow up with one way of seeing things doesn't mean that it has to stay that way. We need the lenses of Advent, especially as more shootings take place on our campuses, in our bars, and in the marketplace. We need to look at life through the lenses of hope and possibility, and we need to look at life as a place where lions and lambs can rest together. A place where powerful angels visit lowly shepherds. And a place, oh yes, a place where weapons are put down and transformed into that which tends the soil and creates life. As we think about the lenses of Advent, I can't help but be reminded of the shootings at that gay bar in Colorado last week. And you've probably heard the story of how the shooter was stopped, was taken down. It was a retired Army officer at a gay bar. He was there with his entire family, and they were all straight, but they were there to support a friend who was in a drag show. The shooter opened fire, and early headlines said that this army officer, with the support of a drag queen in high heels, brought down the killer. And I'm not sure whether that's entirely accurate, but there's something in this story that reminds me of that image of a lion and a lamb coming together to create life and to support and to be with each other. And I'm not going to say which one was the lion and which one was the lamb, but they were there together. Is it ever too late to change our lenses? Is it too late to change our narrative and move toward a distant star, toward Bethlehem, the birthplace of life and hope? The Advent story is filled with characters who invite us to see the world differently. Isaiah takes us to the top of a mountain and says, look at the way peace can be. Mary, who said the most significant yes in all of history, and John the Baptist, cranky and cantankerous, preparing the way toward justice. Wake up, they say, wake up. Get ready to adjust your lenses, because guess what? God is sending the lens of all lenses, the lens through which we are all called to look at life. Jesus, the one who offers the prescription for true clarity and focus in our own lives and in the world. So, once again, I remember that story of the scientist who wanted to look slowly and deeply and profoundly at life. Well, now is that time. So I close this sermon with a nod to the poet Mary Oliver, who is always asking us to look deeply. And I'm about to ask you 8 questions that she asked in one of her poems. I'm not going to read the whole poem. It's too long. I'm going to put it in Weekly Chapel this week so you can look at it. But I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. And I know you don't like it when I ask you to do things, but I'm doing it anyway. Even choir up there. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Slow down. And feel what comes to mind as you think about what might be ahead. What do you notice? What do you hear? What do you admire? What astonishes you? What will you want to see again? What is most tender? What is most wonderful? And what do you think might happen? And now, St. Paul's, open your eyes. It is Advent. Open your eyes.